Okay, here's my guide to getting started with Excel Esports. Before we do how, let's talk a little bit about why. In other esports, you got your headshots and your war games, and those are all great. But in Excel Esports, it's very special because you get to show off your creative problem solving abilities. It's got an amazing community. Everybody is always, cooperative and supportive and encouraging. Modern Excel has made a lot of changes in the last 5 years, right? If you're haven't checked it out recently, it's got Lambdas now, Python, regex, dynamic arrays. We'll show a couple of those off today. Unlike other video games, it's probably, might be good for your resume and LinkedIn, depending on what industry you're in, of course. The cases are always a fun challenge. It is really, Excel. I love all video games, but Excel has become my favorite video game. There's professional networking, right? People helping each other get jobs and gigs and things. There are prizes that we're competing for, right? The top, even in the online competition, you get $1,000 if you come to Vegas, if you're in the top 32 of the online. There is fun news and TV coverage, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, ESPN2, all these things. There's training conference that's on the same time as the World Championships, right? So maybe you can get your employer to pay for you to go to a fun conference that's really secretly esports. You don't have to tell them that. You can just tell them it's a conference. Well, I mean, you tell them the truth, but what about how? All right, how are you going to get started with Excel Esports? Well, number one is practice, right? So you can practice 10 cases for free on the ExcelEsports.com, no credit card required. We will do one of those right now. The WhatsApp community you should join. There's links, all this links and stuff are in the YouTube video description. Get started with some of these modern Excel features, build a Lambda, upgrade to XLOOKUP. We'll do that. We'll do a couple of those in a minute. Check out tools, Lambdas, everybody, sharing stuff, lots of tricks, tips and tricks on YouTube, lots of YouTubers specific to Excel Esports and all kinds of other great Excel tutorials out there. Join a monthly battle. Monthly battle is $20. The next one is September 18th. Anybody can join. Then the one after that will be in January of 2026 because it is time for the yearly championship tournament. So it's $50 to enter that tournament. You get 17 practice cases. Even if you don't advance in the tournament, you still get 17 practice cases. And the tournament runs from September 27th to the final day of the finals is December 4th. I mean, it's not every day. There's, competitions sprinkled here and there. And if you use up your free practice cases, right, then you can get 91 or more cases with a subscription for $10 a month. So lots of Excel esports for, in my opinion, a very reasonable price. When you go to the website for the first time, play.excel-esports.com, it will look like this, right? There's be a little sign in button over here. So you go to sign in, you go to register, very simple registration, no credit card, nothing. You just fill this out and then you're ready to play. So our first game, we're going to do here, like once you're signed in, right? You'll see here I'm signed in. You can click play now. Just going to make a community game just for ourselves. You don't have to compete. You can't compete against other people, but just to start practicing, it's good to just practice with on your own. So we're going to set it's just a public game because it's not password protected, because I'm only going to allow one player and it'll be unlisted. So it's fine. Nobody else is going to join. So I'm going to do the Excel basics case. And I'll give, normally a case is 30 minutes. I'm going to give myself extra time just because it's my first time. So I save settings, I join the game, and now I'm ready to start. So I click start game, and I'm like, yes, I want to start the game. So now it has, my score, the players are all here. It's just me this time, right? There's the timer, which I upped, and here I can download the case file, right? So I download the case file and I open it up, and here is the case. So this is a base case. This actually comes from the Brazil chapter, right? Different countries around the world have their own chapters that everybody can participate in. And this is one that was made in particular for training as a warm up to get people used to the basics and the format, right? So as usual, right, there are bonus questions and levels. Even though the bonus questions are at the top, it's actually usually best to do the bonus questions last. So there's a tip for you. So we're going to do the levels first and bonus questions last. So to start out here, the first level is we want a certain number of characters starting from the left. What are the first 3 characters of this, the first 2 characters of this, and so on, right? So there's an example here that is already solved for me, and it shows me the answer. So I need to come up with a formula that will get the same answer and then apply that to this, right? So the formula that I'm going to use here is the left formula, which you can see here. Excel is telling me, returns number of characters from the left. That's what I want. Open parentheses. So I need to give it 2 arguments, right? The text and the number of characters. The text, I just click here, comma, number of characters, I click here, close parentheses, press enter, and there we go, right? This matches. So I can copy, Control C, paste, Control V, and hopefully these answers right. So I copy again. Now I'm going to paste values, right? It's good to keep these as paste values so they don't change if something goes wrong. So Control Shift V to paste values. Now I'm going to copy it one more time because I want to put it into the platform, right? So here, got this, so, kind of put this over here. And level 1, I will make sure I got it copied on the clipboard here. Copy and paste. And level 1 is solved. Now I'm ready to see I got 40 points. Now I'm ready to solve level 2. So what is the sum of the 2 largest numbers presented, right? So to do this, I'm going to do the text split function. To split this by space hyphen space, because that's what's between each number. And when I have text here, I want to tell Excel that they're really numbers. So there's a couple ways you can do that. You can do like either minus minus, or what I usually do is times 1. So now that makes these numbers. Now for some reason it wants this to be a date, which I don't want it to be a date. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some format stuff here. So I'm just going to put this, I'm just going to click the format painter here and paint that all around there, right? So now they're all just in regular format, okay? So I've got this. Now I want to know the 2 highest numbers, right? So I'm just gonna, I did actually Control X. I'm gonna move this over here. Now I'm gonna find the highest number, which is the max of this. I use the pound symbol to select the whole array here. And to get the second largest one, right, that function is called, there's a built-in function for that called large, turns the kth largest value. Well, starting from this array, I want the second biggest, right? And then, I add these, I'll give myself a little more room here. Add these together, and that gives me 160, right, which matches there. So this stuff, I can just copy down like this. Copy this again. Now paste values, Control Shift V, Control C again, and I'm ready to put that into level 2 here. Oh, I must have lost something. Copy. Copy and paste. There we go. All right, level 3. What is the column of each reference below? All right, so I can use and do this a couple different ways. Let's do column indirect of this, right? So that takes, that makes it look at this cell indirect, and then I just want to know the column number of it. Using indirect is actually kind of dangerous, and I'll explain, kind of can slow down your stuff, and I'll explain more later. But for now, it's a good way to solve this one because I'm not doing anything that's gonna tax my computer too much. But we'll get back to indirect a little bit later. All right, how many times does the character appear in the text string? Well, to do this, I'm going to use the substitute function. So I'm going to take this text, and this is the old text that I want in it, right? And I want to replace it with nothing, right? So now I've got, this here. And what I want to know is, before and after, right? So before, the length of this, right? LEN is length, was that. And then afterwards, the length is this. So then what's the difference, right? Equals this minus this. So I took out 2 characters, right? So that must be the number of J's is 2. And that matches the example, right? So I paste these in, copy, paste values, right? Copy again, and paste values, or just paste into there. All right, now I want to take a number chain and add together only the 7s, right? Or only the 4s, only the 2s. And I'm going to actually do that using the same thing I just did before, right? I'm just going to copy this whole thing, copy all this, just put it right here. And guess what? It looks like I got rid of 6 7s out of here. So the 7s are now all gone, right? So the answer to what's the sum, well, if you got 6 7s, right? 6 times 7 is 42, right? So here's the answer is this times this, right? Is there. So, as you can see here, sometimes the levels build on each other, and you can reuse things with kind of clever solutions here. So copy this down, and that's level 5. All right, level 6, we have a map. Excel World Championship loves maps. Here's our map. Got numbers, colors, addresses. What can you find? What can you find in D8? All right, Q4. So I look over here in Q4, and it's a 1, right? But am I going to look these all up by hand? No, of course not. We already learned this, right? Which is indirect. So now let's call this, when you do indirect on another sheet, you got to do the name of the sheet and an exclamation mark. And this address here. So there you go. That should be all the answers right there. Level 6. Okay. Level 7. Now, we want to look in the map, and we want to find the value in this reference, but not this cell. We want to go and find the one directly above or below it. Okay. So in order to figure this out, I want to know, the column number. I want to know the old row number. I want to know the new row number, right? I want to know the new address, and the new value is the answer, right? So the column number is the same thing we did up here, right? So this, equals column indirect, right? I can just put the same thing right here and just move this around to the correct place, okay? And I'm going to put this all, I'm going to use a little formula painter just to make this a little neater here. All right, so the old row number, I want to just keep the numbers here out of this. So I'm going to use one of those fancy new functions, which is regx extract from here. I want to extract the digits, right? So that's \d plus is to just pull out the digits of that. I want, that's it. All right, so that's the old row number. So now the new row number can be either above or below that. So if this equals above, then it's this -1. Otherwise, otherwise it must be below, so this +1. Right? So there's the new row number. So the new address is address, the row number, comma, the column number. And what type do I want? I want the relative type, which means no $signs. Okay, so there's the new address. What's the new value? Well, we know that, right? Indirect map exclamation mark ampersand the new address. Okay, so that's one there. So let's put this in like this. Copy, paste values, Control-Shift-V, and copy it again to put it in the platform. Really, I mean, you don't even have to put it here. You just put them directly in the platform if you want. All right, that's the levels. Let's do bonuses. All right, so number 1. How many times does the E appear in your answers? Well, let us, I'm gonna use regex extract again just for fun. Regex extract from here, give me any capital E's, but give me all of them, right? So it's like, no, there's no E's in there. Whoops. Nope, I lost my formula. So equals regex extract. This text, I want the E, I want all of them. And there I can see there's, if there's more, they'd be out here. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 E's. All right, put that in here. Which question number has the highest value answer, right? So let us find, the max of these is the highest value. So it's 198. So now, XLOOKUP, that's my first XLOOKUP. So now I want to XLOOKUP this 198. I want to look it up on here. And I want to return on here. Right? So in VLOOKUP, you couldn't do this. VLOOKUP, it's reverse, right? You can't do that. But XLOOKUP, it's fine. You just say, I want to look in the E, find the max value, and then return the corresponding value over here. That's going to tell us the game number, which is 22. So next, we're going to multiply the largest even answer by the smallest odd answer in level 3, which is here. And I'm just going to copy this so I don't forget what it is. All right, so let's say I do the evens here and the odds here. So if is even this, then this, otherwise nothing. Okay, and then in the odd, I'm going to copy the text here. I'm not copying the formula, I'm copying the text. Paste. Same thing, but is odd. All right, so 5 is odd, so it's shown up in the odd column, which is good. So now what I want to multiply the largest even answer, which is here, times the smallest odd answer, which is here, and it's 108. Okay, bonus 4. How many times does the most frequent number appear on the map spreadsheet? So here is all the numbers here. So let's say, 0, 1, I want all the digits up to 9. I can just, I grab the little box there and grabbed it like that. Another way to do that is, sequence of 10 rows, 1 column starting at 0. All right, now I'm going to use COUNTIF. Select this range. Now I got to lock it with $signs. So I press F4 and you see the $sign show up here. Right, then check this. And there actually aren't any zeros, but I checked anyway. And those are the numbers of each one. What if, so if I forgot to lock it, this would cause problems, right? So COUNTIF, why do I need to lock it? If I don't lock it, like let's say I just leave this as a relative reference with no dollar signs and look for this, right? I want this to change, but I don't want this to change. So I need dollar signs. Otherwise, what happens, these are the wrong answers because like, look, 9, right? It's looking down here, like the box here moved down with me, and I don't want that. So that's what the dollar signs do, is they lock it in place. So it's always looking on the correct thing. The bonus was just asking me what's the highest of these, right? Which one? It's the max, right? So it's 81. So 81 is there. 81 is there. That was supposed to be, whoops, that's supposed to be 108. How many pink cells are on the map? Well, let's see. Let's make a new map. Here. So just care about the colors now. I want to find the pink cells, so I'm going to right click and do format cells. And I look in, the fill tab and more colors, not a standard color, but a custom color. And it tells me what the color code is. Control C to copy it. Paste that there, just so I have it there. I don't actually need it. Now I'm going to do this and look for more colors. And I put this in here. It was already done, but because I did this a minute ago, but doing this again, I put that in there. Now I want to replace that with a 1. So every time there's a pink cell, it puts a 1 in it, but it does not put 1s in the other colors. I highlight these. It said to ignore this one, so I'm not highlighting that one. I highlight these. And I look here in the bar, and it tells me the sum is 434. Right? So 434. And I put 434 right there. And I wait 5 seconds for it to tell me whether my answer is right or not. And it is. I got 1,250 points, which is the maximum for one of these cases. I got everything right. And I'm ready to, stop solving and end the game. All right, so now a couple quick things before we wrap up is I said about indirect, why indirect is a bit of a problem. It's something called, let's see, where did we use indirect? We used it here, right, to find the column number. Where is the column number? Yeah, here, right, indirect. So indirect is a little bit funky because it is volatile. Like, for example, if you have a random number function, if I do anything else in the spreadsheet, notice that notice this changes, right? Which could slow things down, right? Like normally Excel keeps track of what cells depend on what, and you can see those, like I could trace there are no dependents for that, but I could trace that this cell causes this cell to change, right? So if I change this value to A2, it knows to change this. But it doesn't recalculate this unless one of its precedents change. But volatile is not like that. Volatile, it doesn't know what its precedents are. It just recalculates every single time, no matter what, whenever you do anything. And that can really slow things down a lot. So in an actual competition, instead of using indirect, what I would probably do is something like this. Probably create a, no, I don't need that. Probably create a new sheet here. And I'd put the addresses, right? So address, row, column as a relative address here. And I paste formulas, right? So now I've got the addresses. And what I can do now is toCol, right? toColumn, which takes a 2-dimensional array and turns it into 1-dimensional column. I can do the same thing with the actual numbers here, right, in the original map. And as long as it's lined up the same, these will line up perfectly, right? So now I've got just a lookup table I can use without any indirect action, right? So back here I can say equals XLOOKUP, look up the address here on this column, returning this column. Usually you want to keep these locked with F4, right? And then, oh, I didn't include, there is no A2. Oh, because I changed this when I was showing you something. Let's say that was B2, right? So now we do this, gives me the same answer without having to recalculate. The other thing I've mentioned a couple times is Lambdas, right? Which lets you reuse code, reuse functions, reuse formulas, which can be very useful. So let's look at this example here, right? Where I've got this, I substitute and I look at the length of one, the length of the other. This is something that happens all the time in Excel Esports. So let's say I wanted to create a Lambda function in order to do this automatically, right? So I say equals Lambda. I need to give it some arguments, right? So my arguments are going to be a string and a substring. I'm not giving the function itself a name because Lambdas are actually anonymous functions. Well, I'll give it a name later, but I'm not giving a name when I make it. So this and this, now those are my two arguments. I'm going to use Alt Enter to make white space, right? White space to make it more readable. Does not mess anything up. What I want it to return is the length of the string minus the length of substitute. And I don't want to make it case sensitive, right? So I'm gonna change them both to uppercase. So the uppercase of the string is the original text, then the uppercase of the substring is the second text. I'm going to replace it with nothing, right? That closes the substitute function. Now I close the length function. See, it tells you here what parentheses I'm on. Now I close the lambda. And when you finish a lambda, you get this little calc error, which, is like, oh my God, what happened? That's just because it doesn't know what values to use for this. I haven't called it yet. So in order to call it, you just give it one way at least, is to give it these parentheses. I'm saying, all right, so this could be the first argument string, and this will be the second argument substring, and it gives me, it counts, how many substrings are in the string. It says, oh, there's 2. So there you go. So that's the correct answer for that. But that's not actually how I want to use this. How I want to use this is, forget about that. Now I'm going to copy this whole thing, press escape here. I'm going to go into my name manager and I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call this count substring. And I put this in here. So now all I have to do is say, okay, I've created my own new function now, right? See, the built-in functions are all capitals. Mine I do in lowercase, so I can tell the difference. So I do count substring. It even gives me the guide. It's like, well, where's your string? And where's your substring, right? Solve all these, right? So count substring, this and this. And I could have done this ahead of time, right? When I'm actually competing, I have a file I use that has all of these set up ahead of time. And in the community, we share them with each other and talk about how to make them and use them. And it's a lot of fun. So you should do it too. So now let's say that I had this count substring function and I've been practicing and practicing, and I made it to the finals in last year's finals on stage in Vegas. And this World of Warcraft case, which is the most difficult case I've ever done, but for the the top competitors in the world. And here's this question here, this bonus question: how many W's are there in the quest names? All right. Well, let's see. I'll just move this over because that's where my lambda is. What if I want to know how many W's are in the quest names? Well, guess what I can do? I can do count substring this W. And that tells me for that one, right? Bring all this down. Look here in the formula bar. I see a 45. And back in my world championship case, here, I say, all right, the answer must be 45. And there you go. I got 125 points in the finals. All right, and that's how to get started in Excel Esports. Please check out the links and everything in the descriptions. And thank you for watching, and good luck.